I now call this meeting to order. We welcome you to the LPUA meeting. We, as your representatives in the LPUA, welcome your involvement and encourage your participation. This meeting is a public hearing. If you wish to address the LPUA on any item on this agenda, please fill out the request form in the foyer on the computer provided. The request to address the council form must be filled out and submitted prior to the call of the agenda item, or you will not be given the opportunity to speak. If assistance is needed with submitting the request, staff is available to help. If you have materials you wish to submit to LPUA, please give those to Ms. Veronica Williams prior to the call of the agenda item. In an effort to allow everyone to have the opportunity to be heard, the 5-minute rule will be in effect. Speakers shall refrain from debating, personal attacks, and from making confrontational statements. In the event a speaker has completed their comments prior to the expiration of their allotted time, any remaining time shall be forfeited. I'm requesting that the first row to my left be used for media only. Food and drinks are not allowed in the auditorium, and all phones and electronic devices shall be silenced from this point forward. I'm also requesting that anyone who approaches the LPUA state their name and title for the official record. Meeting procedures are by resolution, not by Robert's Rules of Order. Documents including agendas, ordinances, resolution, and minutes related to this and other meetings are posted online at www.lafayette.la.gov or referred to the web address on the top of the agenda. Chair announcements. I do not have anything. Any LPUA announcements? No? Executive Mayor report? No? Ordinance for final adoption? Liz, will you please read? Oh, I'm sorry. This is a public hearing, and the electronic speaker form is available for anyone wishing to address the LPUA. The 5-minute rule does apply. Liz, will you please read?
Hang on, Liz.
Sorry. Nope, now you're on. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
B has it. Yeah, I just put it. Ordinance 8, 2018, LPUA. An ordinance of the Lafayette Public Utilities Authority providing for the abandonment of a 10-foot electrical easement on Lot 3A of Howard's, having a municipal address of 4603 Johnston Street.
Moved by Conk, second by Boudreaux. Any LPUA discussion? Any public comment?
No, ma'am.
All right, let's go to a vote.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4? Yes. District 6?
Yes.
Yes. District 8?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
All right, director's update. Terry Huval, the floor is yours if you have anything you'd like to share. Mr. Terry Huval. Hold on one second. Hold on. All yours, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson Hebert, and the rest of the LPUA. Hebert contacted me, asked me to give you guys a little bit of a perspective on some of the news that occurred, I guess about 12, 13 days ago, having to do with LUS Fiber and LUS, and having to do with some facilities that were being served. So I thought I'd put in perspective, and we have some members of the press here. I just describe it to them pretty much the same way I'll be describing it to you. Is when we first built the fiber system at LUS, it was not LUS Fiber, it was just part of LUS. It was part of the infrastructure necessary to properly connect, control our system from the power plants to the electrical substations, and ultimately with water plants, water facilities, and our sewer facilities. And when we first built that system, it was all part of LUS, just like if you look into think about it from a home perspective, you've got a number of, when you get your electrical wiring put into your home, you've got a number of electrical outlets, and so you have those throughout your home that you can utilize. That's the same thing we had within LUS. So in the case of your home, if you plug something into the receptacle, you get the power that you need to do what needs to be done. If you don't plug anything into it, it's just part of the devices you have in your home. Similar was the way it worked with LUS. Until we got into the offering the telecommunication services. And then the private providers went to the state legislature to get a law passed that provided a substantial amount of detail on how we could continue to operate our utility system and still be able to provide telecommunication services to others in our community. In that provision, in that law, it ultimately required us to sell the assets that LUS owned in its fiber system to the new LUS fiber system. So basically, the assets that LUS had been using for its own, as it needed to serve its customers or serve its electric and water and sewer needs, was now being part of the system, part of the telecommunications system. And part of that, those regulations required us to buy services from LUS Fiber to serve LUS, which is what LUS did. So initially, the initial services that we used off of fiber before we had LUS Fiber established, we still use those, except now we had to pay for it. LUS had to pay LUS Fiber for those services. All along, the idea of the fiber system was to make sure that LUS could provide the best services possible to its customers, the most reliable, the most responsive services from an electric, water, and wastewater perspective. And so after we began providing telecommunications services through LUS Fiber, we've continued to expand our services to serve LUS. And that's been going on for some time, and we've been, gotten a lot of benefits from that. Reliability of the utility system is the best in the state, has been continuously since we started using part of the fiber system to help us monitor where electrical outages were occurring so we could get to them more quickly. Our water system, we've been able to, just this past winter, we were able to successfully ride out of the toughest winter storm we've had in a long time because we had pressure points and we had control over our pumps and our system remotely. And so as the system was having issues in some parts of the community, we could shift around so that we could get adequate pressure so we didn't have to have any boil water advisors, where another 20, 25 water systems had to have boil water advisors. We didn't have to. The fiber system was a big tool for helping us with that. On the sewer side, it was one of the areas that we have been using for our sewer lift stations. We wanted to expand that, and that's the area that became kind of a problem for us, and I'm going to describe what happened there. So the plan was to take of our total of 180 sewer lift stations, and sewer lift stations, I'm sure that you know, but for the public's perspective, whatever you hate to be this graphic, when you flush the toilet and it gravitates what takes what's in the toilet pipe going down. Well, at some point you get so deep that you can't get to the sewer plant so it can be properly treated. And so our sewer lift station actually raises the level of that flow and has it going down again. And that process goes all the way through until you finally get to the sewer plant. If a sewer lift station isn't working properly, then you can have issues of backups into people's homes and businesses, which is, very unsightly, very, something that customers don't want to see. And plus, the Environmental Protection Agency is very strong on municipalities updating and maintaining their sewer systems, and we've been under those kinds of requirements for quite a long time. And so the more proactive we can be in dealing with our sewer system as a whole, the better service we can provide to our customers. In the old days, and there's still some of that existing today, where the way that someone could notify that a sewer lift station wasn't working properly, was that there was a red light outside the station, and it would say, call if you see this light turning red. Well, if nobody passes by there that day and no one notices it, then you never get that phone call. So the idea is for us to have connectivity to as many lift stations that where it makes sense to do so. In our case, as I said before, we have 180 lift stations. We decided that 100 of those were of a proper size and location to where it made sense for us to hook up our telecommunications services to that. So we never thought we were going to hook it up to all of them initially. Maybe at some point we will, but it was just 100 of the 180. The plan was that those lift stations had to be equipped to be able to tie into the fiber system when it's brought to it. And we successfully were able to hook up to 37 of those lift stations. 63 of those, however, had the fiber system hooked up to the lift station area, but it was not tied into the lift station equipment itself. We discovered that on our own about a month and a half ago is when we started digging into certain things and found found one, and then we said, okay, how many more of these do we have? And we found two, and we found three, and we found these others. And at that point, I said to my staff, well, first of all, we need to shut off the LUS Fiber circuit to it. Secondly, we need to get a good accounting as to how long all this was going on and how much money was involved, because during this period of time, LUS Fiber is billing LUS for these services, and LUS is paying it each month. Once we went through that exercise, we found that on the maximum side that about $1.7 million had been accumulated. That had been over from 2011 to the current time. Included in that 1.7 was a second issue that we had to do with some of our electrical apparatus, what we call capacitors and reclosers. These are the devices we have on our poles that help us in regulating our voltage so that you have proper power going to your home, as well as being able to disconnect in case there was a power outage, a tree that falls on a line or something that causes a power outage. In that particular case, we had that was done properly. It was done properly from the beginning. All of these electrical devices were hooked up to fiber, and it was built properly, all at the right time. What happened is about 35 of those devices got moved, because sometimes certain situations occur in our system where we need to fine-tune and move these from one place to the other. And in doing so, the previous location was not disconnected from fiber service, and so therefore being billed for it. So the $1.7 million covers all of it. Obviously, $1.7 million in anybody's eyes is a lot of money, and we see that also. Putting it into perspective, though, this took place over a period of time from 2011 to 2018, basically almost 8 years. And in that same period of time, LUS Fiber earned $220 million of revenues. So what we're talking about here is $1.7 billion. That's the questionable one as to, that this incident happening, compared to $220 million. Basically less than 1% of our overall revenues came from that. So it was just a matter of, from our perspective, not having proper coordination within the organization when we hooked it up, and that's where the problem occurred. So we self-disclosed that to the administration. We also met with the public service commissioners, because the rules that apply to this type of activity fall under the PSC. We visited each public service commissioner individually and asked them to go ahead and perform an audit on us. They were looking at doing so. It was going to be a little bit further down the line potentially, but we said, look, since we've discovered this, why don't you go ahead and go through it now so we can make sure we don't miss anything in the process and get it all cleared up. So that's the PSC has now taken action to be able to move forward with an audit with their staff. In the meantime, we also have the city auditor, Kohler Champagne, that has to obviously weigh in on this, and they've already submitted their audit at the end of last month, and there'll be a presentation to you later on about the details of that. That points out this issue from a standpoint of, from a financial side on the LUS Fiber side. It doesn't have a significant impact. You might say $1.7 million will be a significant impact, right? But when you take a look at what the bottom line is, LUS Fiber was profitable before we noticed this, and it was profitable afterwards. It didn't change any of that profitability side of it all. So it's an error that we certainly wish we wouldn't have had. It's one that we regret, but we did find it ourselves, we disclosed it ourselves, and we're fixing it ourselves. And we wanted to make sure that that we communicate that in such a way that the public still has confidence in our services. I will tell you that since the initial story came out, our sales have remained about the same. In fact, they kind of go up and down. There's one of those up ones lately, and so actually it hasn't hurt any of our sales. It hasn't hurt the system. Obviously, just again, disappointed on our side that we missed that. The previous audit by the PSC ended in 2011, 2012, and it didn't pick this up either. Those were the beginning days of some of this issue. it's not an easy one to find. So therefore, it's our job to ensure that we put systems in place that make sure that we find it and we fix it before it happens. We've checked everything we can in our system in the meantime. That's how we found the issues on the electrical side, because when we saw the issues on the sewer side, we knew we need to just do a thorough review, and we've done that and are confident that everything else has been done properly. The rules by the PSC, the rules of the Fair Competition Act are very complicated, very involved, but it's our job to make sure that we follow what they are, and in this case here, we'll fall short of that. The good news is that there's really no income, there's no dollar impact to anyone as a result of it. The money is going back to LUS. Given the PSC the opportunity to look at that, because it's questionable in their rules as to even if this is a violation or not. But from a common sense perspective, it's not the sort of thing that we want to try to fight and say, no, we should keep the money on the LUS side, LUS Fiber side, whenever we know it wasn't providing service on the LUS side. So I hope this has been provide some clarity for you, and if not, I'm willing to just answer any questions or take any comments.
Anyone have any questions? Okay, go ahead. Ms. Cook?
I'm just curious. Michael. Okay, so we've disconnected the service then? I mean, like, because we actually never connected it, but have we connected anything that we're intentionally going to connect? Or I know there was some problems initially that you couldn't make that connection because of the equipment.
So obviously going back to the root, I won't say root cause, let's say root focus that we had when we started this, we still believe it's important to get the sewer lift stations tied into the fiber system so we can monitor it and respond more quickly.
Right.
And so what we have done is that we've disconnected service from LUS Fiber to those lift stations, but at the same time, we're doing the work necessary to make those lift stations capable of receiving the LUS Fiber connectivity. And we think within the next 6 months, we should have all of that done. So we will have achieved what we should have achieved before, done properly. And then at that time, when they're connected and they're being used, then it's going to be billed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else? No? All right, thank you, Terry. That's all we have.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, this LPUA meeting is adjourned.
Hey.